We spent $50,000 on a 4-day mastermind that helped us generate a record month of $408,000 cash collected. But the event itself isn't what made the money. It was the content that we filmed over the period of 4 days that led to a record month. If you run masterminds, retreats, or live events and you're not filming them properly, you're wasting your highest ROI content that you could be capturing. Most people think it's as simple as hosting an event, getting a few videographers and capturing everything that happens and then putting it together. But if you have mediocre inputs like this, then you're gonna have mediocre results. You need to be extremely intentional with the structure that you actually put in place to execute an event like this. From the itinerary, the shot list, the gear required, and the actual content outputs that are based on your format winners that is actually going to provide you the result that you're looking for. In the span of 4 days, we filmed 6 client interviews, 6 one-on-one breakdowns, 1 cinematic vlog, and a mastermind presentation. And people consuming that content over the span of a month created so much FOMO, created so much education for our ICP, which helped us hit a record month of 400K. Hosting a mastermind is actually a cheat code. It all starts with pre-production. Part 1 is all about the trip schedule. Now, this is something you should be doing for every trip regardless of the creative process. Most people think if they hire a creative director, a video production team, and have them rock up to every single activity, then they're gonna get the outcome that they want. But the truth is, you need to be extremely intentional about what you're doing on every single day. Have this clearly planned out in a list with timeframes. So now the creative team can actually plan around the activities that you wanna do. They can identify what type of shots to get, what type of gear to use for specific environments. This is literally the blueprint that makes the 4 days as productive as possible. Having this travel schedule made my life so much easier because I knew exactly where we were going to be, what time we were going to be there, and the type of gear that I needed to execute the output that was required. Now here's what the schedule actually looks like. You want to be very clear on what you're doing every single day. So for us, we started with pre-arrival. This is also something that you can share with everyone that is attending so they know exactly what to expect, what they can plan for their own content teams, and it just makes the whole process a whole lot easier. We add photos so we can actually visualize the location. Personally, this gets me thinking about the shots way before I even get there. But the most important part is the day-by-day breakdown. So over here, you can see day 1 was all about just arrival, getting to know one another, and then transporting everyone to a dinner. And the actual location for the dinner is highlighted here. So we could actually look at the spot and prepare beforehand. Same thing with day 2, a full breakdown with times and the activities that we were going. So we did this for every single day. Day 3, day 4. Having a schedule like this makes my life so much easier because I can envision the whole creative process even before we start. Exactly what inspiration to look for, the gear I want to use, and the shots I want to get. That leads me to part 2, having a shot list as a foundation. Now, of course, a lot of the A-roll that you're going to be shooting is heavily dependent on what formats you want to execute. For us, we wanted a cinematic vlog, we wanted client interviews, business breakdowns, and a mastermind presentation video. Now, the best way on how to plan to execute these formats is to understand where you're actually going to be shooting them. Again, this is where the schedule matters, so you can actually research the locations and see how you would shoot, if there's enough room for the cameras, if there's enough depth, what is the background going to look like. But where a shot list actually comes in handy is for the B-roll. Having a clear, structured B-roll shot list makes sure you don't actually miss out on the footage that's going to add the impact that you need. And A-roll is something that you can always craft depending on when you get on set. The first step to doing this is to turn your itinerary into a shot list. So this is the shot list that we created, and I split it into 2, cinematic B-roll and then Sue specific B-roll. So all I did was I cross-referenced each day to the actual schedule. So you can see here day 1, day 2, and then you have the same thing on the shot list, and each activity has a shot description. So day 0, obviously getting to the airport, traveling, and if you open here, we have some references for shot inspiration, what the actual shot needs to look like, and some visual references as well. So we're super inspired by Daniel Dalen's airport content, so that's what we used here. And then setting the scene, again, cross-referencing it, identifying we need to have establishing shots here. And establishing shots are always going to be drone shots or using a wide lens. So over here, wide, medium, and then the types of close-ups we need and the references again based on the location of the lodge. We want B-rolls of the lodge interiors. So what is required to actually execute that? You get the idea, but basically we're going through every single element of the itinerary and then we're creating a shot list. So this is a period of research that you actually need to do. So once I was clear on the schedule, I looked up inspiration through other creators, through other mastermind videos, and see how they actually executed it. So then I could bring those ideas and frames that I really wanted to recreate into our own shot list. The main categories you want to list out here is the date, the shot description, the actual inspiration within the file, the location it's going to be at, is it a wide shot, a tight shot, or a drone shot, and the equipment needed to execute something like that. Similarly for Sue B-roll, we did the same thing. However, this was very specific to Sue himself. So we're capturing him arriving, him speaking to clients. So all of this is crafted around his unique mechanism, which we know from the insights we get from the clients and the onboarding form. So we found out that people really resonate with the emotional and personal side of Sue, close interaction with clients, the high-level business insights, and the overall lifestyle. So we want to make sure we're capturing A-roll and B-roll that showcases this. So over here, you can see Sue interacting with clients, raw vlog moments, which you can see here, again, him showcasing more of his personality. We have the one-on-one breakdown format. So now we're very, very clear on what this needs to look like visually, because even if someone else is operating the camera, which we'll get into, they need to have a very, very clear understanding of how to execute just as well as you do. So me passing this shot list and schedule over to someone else, they're going to execute the exact same way, and there's going to be much better communication between the 2-3 people who are actually filming, so everyone is on the same page. Now, I've seen time and time again, people have a schedule and a shot list, but they never follow it. This is only going to be as good as the people who use it. So I would look at this all the time. I would have it on my phone, and I would make sure that we're getting these shots. The reality is you're going to get a lot of shots outside of this. You're going to, have activities pop up that weren't initially planned, but that's just a bonus. That is going to make your content even better, the stuff that you come up with on the spot. But this gives you the foundation that you really need to make sure you're getting all the deliverables and the output is going to meet a certain standard. So that is why I highly, highly recommend you guys plan out your travels, plan out your masterminds to actually execute it like this. Now, part 3 is all about gear and systems, the part that nobody actually speaks about, but is the most important and the part I love most. Now, if you're just hoping to have 1 or 2 cameras, a few SD cards, a couple of batteries and a tripod, and you're calling it a day, you are setting yourself up for failure. The amount of events that I've shot, the possibility of something going wrong is so high. On this trip, we had one of our tripods break, one of our drones stop working, and if we didn't have redundancies in place, we would have been in a much more difficult situation. And sometimes it's not as easy as, oh, we can just go buy another one. We were literally in the middle of nowhere. We were on a snow mountain, and there's definitely no camera shops nearby where you can just pop in and get whatever you need. So you need to be prepared. At a baseline for something like this, I would recommend 4 camera bodies. For us, it was 2 Sony FX3s and 2 Sony ZV-E1s. 4 cameras as a baseline is a great place to start, with a combination of 24-70 lenses and wide lenses. We had 2 24-70s, we had 2 16-35s, a couple of prime 50mm 1.8 lenses. With this setup, you're going to be able to cover most of your outputs. Now, one thing to remember is we had 2 Sony FX3s, which don't overheat. When you're shooting things like masterminds and long client interviews, cameras do tend to overheat. If you're using something like the Sony ZV-E1, then make sure you buy the fan that you can stick onto the back to stop any overheating issues. Next is storage and batteries. I recommend having more memory cards and hard drives than you think you need. Always, always, always. This is something that I've had to learn the hard way after losing memory cards or losing footage. You want to have enough, and you never want to be on set and then again have your storage fill up and then having to transfer files when you're meant to be filming. For 4 cameras, I would have at least 8 to 10 SD cards, all between 256 to 1 terabyte each. With the newer cameras, the new codecs and the new resolutions, storage fills up quite fast, and you want to be filming in the highest resolution possible so your content looks nice and cinematic and stands out. The same principles apply for batteries. I would have at least 10 to 12 batteries if you are running 4 cameras. A couple of other important things is audio. You want to have at least 2 to 3 sets of the DJI wireless microphones, and you want to have a dedicated shotgun microphone for each camera body. Now you'll be completely covered on the audio front. When it comes to lighting, so 2 key lights that have soft boxes and are powerful enough to light any scene that you want to create, with 2 LED bars or 2 smaller lights that you can use as background lights or fill light. And of course, the non-negotiables, ND filters, multiple tripods, and having at least 2 drones. This will ensure you're covered to film 99% of all the outputs that you're going for. Now, the most important thing after you've dialed in your gear is to have a nightly upload routine. If you do not do this, footage will add up, SD cards will get full, and you're risking of being in a position where you're deleting footage on the go and you don't know if everything's being transferred. So every single night before I go to bed, I will copy all the footage from the SD card to an SSD, and then I would upload it to frame.io and have a clear folder structure. Business breakdown, the name of the client. For vlogs, you just want to have day 1, day 2, day 3. The advantage of having bigger memory cards like 500 gig or 1 terabyte, yes, it's going to cost you more, but then you won't actually have to delete the footage from the memory card, and you'll have 3 redundancies. You'll have the memory card itself, the hard drive you copied to, and then frame.io. Never rely on the frame.io upload while you're traveling, because the reality is internet speeds vary depending on where you're staying, and you can't always be certain that everything that you shot on that day is going to be uploaded with speed. So you always want to have SD cards and hard drives, at least for the duration of the trip, until you get back to your office or your prime location where you can upload at a higher speed. I've definitely been in situations where I didn't have enough redundancies and something went wrong with the audio or the file was corrupt, and you're in a position where you can't actually refilm that. So please, please, please have multiple redundancies and have a strict upload and copying schedule every single night on the trip, and be organized with your folders. It's going to make your life so much easier, and it's going to be so much easier for the editors as well. Now, if you're not sure which gear to actually buy, I've put together a full camera gear list based on the budget that you have, which will enable you to execute a production like this. Now remember, each product has its advantages and disadvantages. Do your research. These are what I personally have used and I recommend, but again, it's going to be completely dependent on your circumstances and what you're shooting. If you guys have any questions regarding this gear list or what to invest in, then send me a DM on Instagram and I'll point you in the right direction. Do not overlook the gear. Even if you're a founder and you're leaving it all to your creative team, make sure you have a checklist like this to go through before, because the last thing you want to do is rock up to a mastermind that you've spent all this money on and not having the gear to get you the output that you're looking for. There's been so many instances where I've seen things like this go wrong, where there hasn't been enough memory cards, there hasn't been enough batteries, and the whole production just gets ruined. So be extremely intentional about the camera equipment that you're going to be taking to produce your content. Now that brings me to part 4, the content outputs. We want to maximize every single opportunity there is for content. We want to be extremely intentional about what we're filming and what it's actually going to do for the business, so we can identify if it's going to have a high ROI or not. Now for us, it was pretty simple because we've had previous masterminds, there's previous winning formats. So all we need to do is replicate them, but be even more intentional and creative with the output. The 4 formats that we wanted to execute was a cinematic vlog, client interviews, one-on-one business breakdowns, and the mastermind presentation itself. I'll start with vlogs. So many people capture as much as they can over the whole trip and at the end say, let's make a sick vlog. The whole point of having an itinerary and a shot list is to be extremely clear with what you actually need to capture for the vlog. So now you have an actual storyline, and it makes it so much easier for the editor to piece it all together, and it doesn't feel sporadic and all over the place. Now, like I mentioned before, all we do is we pair this schedule with the unique mechanism of Sue, which is to capture emotional raw insights, close interactions with clients, high-level business insights, and the overall lifestyle of a founder who's making $400K a month at 20 years old. As long as we're finding time in the schedule where we're hitting all these elements, the vlog is going to come together really, really well, and we have a shot list to ensure we're executing on the cinematic front. Next is client interviews. We understand that a lot of the business owners that are coming to this mastermind are extremely high level, they're making over 100K a month, and what better way to create proof than to actually sit down with them and have a chat with them on how we helped them scale, what was their experience like, what were their challenges, what were their frustrations, and what really worked well for them, and create so much proof and FOMO that it would be silly for someone not to actually want to work with us. All you really need is 30 to 40 minutes. We have a bunch of client interview questions that we have pre-prepared so Sue can ask. Next is capturing the actual mastermind itself. For us, this was on day 4, where it was a full day where we had blocked out a nice presentation room at a hotel where we can all sit on a big table. There's a TV for us to do the presentation, and this is where you want to have all 4 cameras, all the lights, all the microphones, everything working, because you want to capture not only Sue, the presentation from different angles, but you also want to capture the audience's reaction. You want to have B-roll, you want to have rolling cams. So often this is the time where everything that you have brought to execute comes together. This is the day where we also do our one-on-one business breakdowns, because it not only involves Sue asking questions, but the audience also asking questions, which makes the insights that much more powerful. Now, if there's one thing to note, all of these formats were long form formats. They were prioritized for YouTube because we understand that if you create for long form, you're going to get great short form as long as you have your clipping system dialed in. Now that's something for another video. By being extremely intentional with what you're going to be doing, what time you're going to be doing it, what are the shots that you're going to get, what are the formats that you're going to execute, and what is the gear required to do so, you can produce so much content that's going to generate so much income because all of the outputs that are coming from this content directly correlate to the 4 pillars of personal branding: being admirable, being likable, being credible, and being trustable. Vlogs create admiration and likability. Client interviews, one-on-one breakdowns, and mastermind presentations create credibility and trust. And all of these things packaged together and executed to a high standard create so much FOMO for the audience that they want to be a part of it. This mastermind happened at the start of Feb, and we posted the content throughout the whole month, which led to so many people inbounding through the DMs, so many people watching our content, and we essentially created so much attention, insights, and proof that it led to us having a record month in March, because all the inputs that you do this month, you don't see straight away, you see the following month. So we literally went from $230,000 to $408,000 in the span of a month by being extremely intentional over a 4-day content process. And yes, the mastermind did cost $50,000 to execute, but when you zoom out and actually look at the output that you created, you're going to make much more money in the long run. An event like this isn't a cost, it's the highest ROI activity you could be doing to scale your business. If you have a mastermind or an event coming up and you want to make the most out of it, DM me Bran on Instagram and let's map out how we can hit your next record month.